Brian.
There goes Brian.
Sailing off.
And by the way, we got to give hats off to Maria Molina.
Amazing.
For what she did.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have the courage to do it, even though you're in great hands.
But was there a point in time when you would have had the courage?
Yeah, before I became a mom, yeah, sure.
Okay.
And after 3 drinks.
Except then you'd really see a lot of vomit.
You've done it. You've flown.
I have. It was, but to your point, it was before I had kids and I didn't have a lot of responsibility and I was fearless and I jumped out of airplanes and I did ultralights and all.
And I have no kids, so
there you go.
You giggled. We heard you giggling throughout this. I would have been crying.
Oh, it felt great. It did. To be able to see the sky like that and to know that you're doing all these amazing tricks and you're with one of the best pilots in the world. So there was nothing really to worry about in that sense. I was just worried about not making it into the actual air sickness bag.
Sure.
You
That was my only
love
concern.
not just weather, but science.
Science. So
they're super into that. So I bet from that perspective, it was really neat for you.
It was very neat to talk about the amount of G's that we were pulling, so the force of gravity and what that felt like is also incredible. When it was more than 6 G's, the pressure that your body feels, it's crazy.
Unbelievable.
And of course, breaking the speed of sound. Very cool.
There she goes.
You were right up there in the weather.
There's 6.1 G's at that point. We did make
and
it
then
higher.
You passed out. What did it feel like when you passed out?
A very long time. I was dreaming. I was at work.
You were out for 2 seconds.
My
what were you dreaming
family,
about?
Everything.
Your life flashed in front of you? That
Everything.
kind of thing?
Okay,
Yeah,
so what
flashes.
was the strangest thing you dreamed about?
Well, it was just like a normal day. Me at school, me at work, my mom, my dad, my brother.
Wow.
And then I opened my eyes and I'm like, and the first thing I saw was Earth because I was looking out the window. So I thought something went horribly wrong. I'm like, oh no, because there's an ejection seat in the plane and they discuss all of that, all the safety. And
good thing you didn't pull that.
Good. They were like, don't touch that.
Yeah.
But then that's why I reached out thinking.
Is that this move?
Yeah. And then when
Jazz
I felt
hands.
the glass, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still on the plane. Very good.
Goodness.
How aware are you coming out? This is the interesting thing because you come out of that state, you're passed out, and you're looking to see where you are, and then you give the instant report. Play by play.
I passed out. He's like, how are you feeling? I passed out. He's like, are you with me now? I passed out. I didn't know what to say.
Yep, and there she goes. Out like a light.
I hate seeing you go over like that. I know you're tough about it, but it's like, oh, poor Maria's showing.
know.
It looks like St. Patrick's Night. After 9 Green Bay. Just kidding. All
That's
right.
why we waited until this week to air it.
Now let's all stand up for a second. And we're going to squeeze over this way toward Heather. We're going to get in real close. And look, the folks that we met earlier, we can sit down now.
Hello.
With the millennial segment
Hello.
have returned.
Am I safe to sit here? Are you feeling okay?
That's right.
I feel fine now.
We have Josh, Linda, and Matt, who joined us earlier, all representing their areas so well in terms of politics. But they're millennials and politicians who kind of got into a little bit of a debate before about accountability in government. Everyone's always saying, where's the accountability? Why isn't the White House accountable for what's going on? Why is the administration, facing some sort of consequence for this or that? You say?
Well, I guess I'll start by just saying, at my local level, I believe that we're far more accountable than anybody at the national level because, frankly, if garbage isn't picked up, people knock at my front door.
I got a pothole in front of my house.
It's just the reality. So we truly need to be both transparent and accountable to the constituents that we serve.
There's no question. One thing in my legislature we do is we read bills and we write them ourselves, and then they all have to have a public hearing, and they all are vetted, and so there's this whole process where you actually know what it is you're voting on and what it would be seeking to accomplish, which shouldn't be a novel thing, but apparently on the federal level it is at times. So
you're actually sitting down and penning the legislation yourself?
No, quite with a pen, not a quill. No.
Of course. You're actually literally
They're
writing
from
it
this
yourself.
millennium, not the last one.
Well, obviously there's a lot of technical language, and you have to, have it be in conformity and fit in with the current RSAs and all of that. So you have staff to help you. But, the genesis of it is, you are involved.
Sure.
So.
How do you solve the problem, the discussion issue, right? So we see Congress not getting a bunch done, yet you guys are able to have a civilized debate here. Is this what we're looking at in terms of the future of politics? Because I think, Americans are frustrated. The approval rating in terms of Congress is lower than the temperatures we saw last week in Chicago. I remember you, Molina. So what do you do about that? Because you guys seem to be able to have, nice discourse.
Sure. I think it's all about compromise and being able to understand and hear out the other side of the aisle. In our state legislature back in the state of Missouri, I'm in a super minority. We have 54 Democrats in the rest of the House. Of the 160 3 individuals are Republican. So we have to work across the aisle. At least for me and for our generation, I believe if it makes sense, if it's factual, and we can compromise on the issue, then we're able to move forward with bringing results for our constituents. That's what it's all about, at least for me, I would say that.
Also, I think we have a different perspective. I mean, we have some long-term challenges in this country, but when we think about, Social Security, Medicare, I just assume it won't be there for me, So this is a time when we need to be solving these problems, finding, these reforms, and actually finding solutions to things. So I think we just have a different perspective on things, which allows us to be more proactive.
One of the things that worries me, and you guys are all very inspiring. It does worry me, and that is
about millennials. There
are so many people your age, a little younger, a little older, who just don't care. They just don't care. They don't watch the news. They don't know what's going on in politics. They don't vote. I mean, you can say that about a lot of adults as well.
They think that doesn't affect them.
But how can more people be like you guys and be involved? Not to the point where you become mayor and somebody wants to know, where's the dog catcher because there's a German Shepherd in front of my house. But get involved to the point where you know what's going on and you take an interest in it.
I think you need to make it relatable. And you also need to very clearly articulate why the decisions that we make matter. And I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. We had yesterday in the gubernatorial primary, 8% of registered voters punched a ballot.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, we're not talking about all down ticket items. We're talking about the governor of the state of Illinois, the people that protect Cook County's water, the judges that decide cases throughout Cook County, in my case. So it is shocking, but I wouldn't say that it is a problem that is held only for millennials. I think that it's our job to make sure that we're engaging kind of up and down the spectrum.
Well, exactly, because your generation can inspire people your age. Hey, come on, our parents weren't so involved, but we can do better.
Yeah, it's important. Well, I think the best way sometimes, it's not always about the message, it is about the messenger sometimes. So just by virtue of being younger people, hopefully, that are civically engaged, we can, inspire other people to think, hey, maybe it's not impossible.
But it's also about consequence.
Sure, of course.
I'm a relatively new homeowner. I want my taxes to be reasonable. I want the services that I get in return to be high quality. And to think that the organization that I inherited 5 years ago had $80 million in bond debt for a city of 60,000 people, it's outrageous. And it's not just cities like Des Plaines. It's really throughout the country. And we need to begin addressing these local issues because we often focus on national debt. We also often focus on all the burden that's placed there. However, there's all of this behind the scenes kind of shadow activity that doesn't get the national spotlight, but the problem is just as grave.
I think Matt is a rarity with being so young and owning his own home. When I look at individuals in my district, the 76th district, we have the highest infant mortality rate in our state. You go just 5 miles down the road into St. Charles County or into St. Charles City, you have individuals who have the lowest infant mortality rate. And that, if you look at the income of each, the median income of each household, there's disparities there. These are things that folks in my district kind of grew up with. I went to Beaumont High School, one of the most challenged school districts and challenged schools in the St. Louis public school districts. 5 of my friends were murdered in front of me. But I took that and I turned my life around. At age 25, I was elected to the General Assembly. These are things that individuals in urban areas are faced with. These are conversations that we should be having at the local level, and our federal government should be providing resources, which I think they are doing. When we look at President Obama and his administration, he has given more resources to districts such as mine than ever before, than any of his other predecessors. So I can't do anything but accept him. My constituents love him, and I'm pleased to say that I've worked in his administration. So.
And to that end, it really isn't just about cutting when we're talking about a poor economy. And I just mentioned all the debt that we had spent time doing away with. It's also the exact same time that we need to be investing. Des Plaines is one of the only examples in suburban Cook County where we've actually invested more in health and human services at the same time, because we recognize that when the economy is suffering, it's because people are without jobs and they're in more need.
And so you're telling me that in Cook County, the turnout rate was 8%, which
Early-
is,
yeah,
which
early
is
numbers.
disturbing because in Cook County, famously, people vote several times.
I think it's an
8%
Illinois
is all
number.
you got.
I think it's an Illinois. I think it's an
People.
Illinois
Let's
number.
put them back.
No, but
You
to
know what
your
I'm saying.
point,
We're
it's
just
not
kidding.
all about cutting, but I think our job is to be effective and resourceful stewards of the taxpayer resources. So, you know, when we're overextending ourselves, sure, maybe cutting isn't always the option, but we have to be looking at what are our outcomes. You know,
It has
are we
to be
using this
balanced. It has to be
correctly?
balanced. And I think one of the things that we bring to the table is a sense of innovation. An example that happened in Des Plaines is it took 8 weeks to get a business license. It was uncanny, the different hoops and hurdles and barriers that we artificially assembled between people starting and finishing that process. We asked the simple question, why can't it take 2? And a few months later, it was wrapped.
Well, that's
Way
great.
to go. You're all
You guys
very
have done some nice
admirable.
work.
Yeah, you're a great representatives to millennials. And what do you think about the picture that's being painted of our generation? Being that
Our generation.
We just
Thank you.
our
Our
generation. we saw a tweet we tweeted about the show, and someone called us unproductive hyenas or something.
Yeah,
like
that was the tweet. Yeah.
yeah, that we don't want to work.
Yeah.
Well, that's the perception until you knock on their door for the 3rd or 4th time and they say, oh, wow, you are young, but you have something worth listening to.
What about disheartened millennials, though? Because there are so many who feel as though they aren't out there able to get the job because people who are overqualified are stepping into positions that would ordinarily be theirs after school.
Well, it's true. We grew up with many comforts, don't get me wrong. You know, on the global scale, we have so much. We've been blessed. But we do have about a 16% unemployment rate, and our median net worth has decreased over the last 20 years from $27,000 per household now to about $7,000 per household, you know, per
But
individual.
productivity
So, I mean,
is through the roof, right? We're expecting
Sure.
more of our workforce
Right.
and paying them relatively less, which is why I think a lot in our age group are on their computer watching the news, texting a colleague
And I think we're in our
reading
parents-
the iPad at the
Yeah.
same time.
I believe that we're in our parents' basement, actually becoming creators. We're thinking about how can we start up an incubator business? How can we go out and create a small business to bring about revenue? Because the jobs are no longer there. So we have to, when you put into a little cubby, sometimes you have to fight your way out and come up with new ideas. So I look at our generation as being that generation that's going to come up with innovative ideas. We're not just the Facebook and Twitter generation. I think that we still have a lot to prove to the old guard, but I think that we will do that if we're provided with the right resources. So Small Business Administration giving micro loans to states so that individuals can take those loans out and get small business productive.
Well, it certainly was productive today, and thank you very much for traveling from all over the country to be with us today.
Thank you.
Excellent job today.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joshua.
Thank you.
Matt, be well.
We'll see you back tomorrow. Let's see if Maria vomits again.
I've got the bag. Not on my iPad.
There she goes.
There's your
Oh, you're so amazing.